We in the Green Party have been backing this campaign for some time and actually have had some success here and there in helping to achieve some of its objectives. And so, for example, in 2007 under Ken Livingstone, the two members of the London Assembly for the Green Party were backing this campaign to the point where we had the establishment of a living wage unit in London, which then subsequently led to many low-paid workers in the city being elevated in terms of their income to a living wage compared to the minimum wage, which, as has been adequately described earlier on, it's not a livable situation. We've backed the campaign also in Oxford and Lewisham, and we will play our part here if a coalition gets going of the kind that Deborah described, and we'll make the points in Cambridge as well. Just in terms of why this is a Green Party issue, well, in a society as rich as ours, it is completely scandalous that people can't make ends meet even when they're going to work, when there is so much wealth in our society. And so from the point of view of simple fairness and social justice, there's an obvious angle there for anybody who's paying serious attention to politics. The other thing, which I think is slightly more about society as a whole, is the steps that we need to make to create a more equal society being about benefits for everybody, not just those on low pay. And this is something else that Deborah said, which I think is hugely important in terms of how we build a sustainable society going forward. And having been to some countries where inequality has got completely out of control, I think this is something we really should take every step to try and avoid. And so visit parts of South Africa, Johannesburg, parts of Rio de Janeiro, and you can see great wealth and great poverty side by side, and you can see the social breakdown that comes with it. It is absolutely appalling. We don't have that here, thankfully, but the way in which our society has become more divided over the last 10 to 15 years, you can see some of the tensions building that actually are in a similar vein in terms of long-term trends. And I was walking through London yesterday and walked past 4 new developments with big gates with wire and cameras, and it said private property. This is people's new housing. This is the great wealth being used to build those kinds of residential developments. A divided society emerges as a result of these kinds of inequalities. And when you have a fairer society, people feel happier in it. And this is not something that's some kind of green hippie kind of theory. This is fact. And if you look at the levels of social satisfaction and well-being in, for example, Sweden, Denmark and Norway, and the high levels of social cohesion that are there, you can trace it directly back to these countries having put in place over a period of decades a much more equal system for sharing wealth and for ensuring that everybody in the country is properly looked after. And compare that to the United States and the UK, where levels of satisfaction have not moved since the early 1970s. It's really quite interesting. Whilst we've been obsessed with this programme of economic growth at any cost over the last 30 years in particular, which has led to this great division in our society, if you look at GDP growth, going up from 1973, the size of the economy here has almost tripled, but levels of social well-being and happiness have remained pretty much level. So what is the point of generating all this wealth to make the richer more rich still if we're not actually improving the welfare of our society as a whole? Really quite profound questions posed, I think, by those academic studies. These are statistics. These are not things that you kind of should regard as theories. This is what's happening to societies in different parts of the world as they become more equal or less equal. There is a really quite big set of questions embedded in that. The other thing, from the point of view of some of the other challenges facing the world at the moment, which are really important in this question of equality and social equality, is the questions of environmental degradation, resource depletion and climate change. And one of the things that I found really quite fascinating in a conversation with the Swedish Environment Minister recently was how she explained to me that the green nature of Scandinavian society is down very much to how they're a very equal society. Because when you want to take measures to improve energy efficiency standards or to legislate out energy wasting goods or to do something about food standards, you don't get there what you get here, which is a loud chorus of people who are going to be affected by these policies that are going to support the middle class Greens. In Sweden, you don't get that because everybody feels as though they're part of an equal society and everybody is doing their bit to move things forward in a greener way, low emissions, looking after resources. And I thought that was a really quite profound observation from someone who was in politics, who was helping to run the government of Sweden, who said, that's why we're greener than you. I thought that was really, really very interesting. So there's some quite big reasons why this goes beyond simply helping the poor, which is the right thing to do, or people on low incomes at least. This is about the well-being of all of society, and it's about the well-being of the global environment too. And so I think this is something that we need to communicate in this campaigning. So we support the Living Wage campaign and we'll be delighted to back this up as it goes along. I must just mention one other policy, however, which we are very proud of in the Green Party. This is our policy for citizens' income, which is basically a guaranteed income for everybody in the country, whether they're going to work or not. The reasons for this are to do with social well-being and some of the issues that have been mentioned here, but it's also about the benefit trap and giving people the means to escape from the trap they find themselves in, whereby going to work sometimes is less financially beneficial than remaining on benefits. And also about rebuilding social capital. One of the things we think that is really important to recognise in the country is how a lot of our welfare is down to things that don't appear in the market, in terms of childcare, in terms of people doing voluntary work, in terms of caring for people in the community, whether it's relatives or otherwise, and enabling that to happen with less stress and giving people the ability to do some more of that, we think actually would add enormous value to the quality of the life for all of us. The citizens' wage will be paid for by taxation, and I just like finish with a couple of statistics that I think are mind-boggling, but which, you know, just need to be said. And so this year, after the financial crash, Goldman Sachs employees will be awarded bonuses, not wages, bonuses of $20 billion. This is not something which is about a shortage of wealth or an absence of money, it's about politics, and ultimately the biggest political question ever is about the distribution of wealth in societies, and that's why I think it's really important for people to engage with this, not only in terms of a campaign, but also to be thinking very carefully about how we engage with politics in the run-up to the next general election. Because if a certain party gets elected as the government, you can forget the living wage, and you can expect not only a freeze on pay, but also major cuts to public sector employees' jobs.